Welcome back to the Healthy Skin Show. I'm Takashi, your host, and I have a very special guest with me here today. His name's Rob Stewart, and he is the eczema guru on YouTube with over 105,000 subscribers. And he runs the site holistichealthactivation.com. He's also into yoga and weightlifting. So thank you for joining the podcast, Rob.
Thanks for having me on today. I really appreciate the opportunity to chat and get the message out for helping people heal their skin.
Yeah. Could you first start off by describing your background and when you first started YouTube?
Yeah. So my background, kind of going back to my younger years, just a person that's been really obsessed with sports and movement and art, music, dancing, anything that got me out of the house and moving my body and being creative. For a good portion of my life, I had, relatively healthy skin, but as a kid kind of showed the early signs of what was to come in my adult years. Always had weird allergies and sensitivities to things like grass and fleas. And one year as a 9-year-old, I had strep throat like 9 or 10 times in the same year, got my tonsils taken out, pumped with antibiotics. Always had kind of a dandruffy, itchy scalp as a kid, but I just kind of wrote it off to that's just normal and that's what life is. Fast forward to my baseball playing days in college, started getting weird little skin things popping up. But again, just kind of thought, hormonal, maybe it's just a rash. Didn't really put two and two together until I got into my mid-20s and started having a really systemic skin disease. Started off with eczema and dermatitis on my face, scalp, sternum. And then by the time I got to probably 28, it was my entire body in different places I had psoriasis, rosacea, I had sebderm, dermatitis, and eczema. So I kind of exploded with it. And around that time really started a journey trying to figure out what was going on. And started off like most people do, turning to my dermatologists and doctors. And honestly, as most of you guys know, it kind of made the situation worse. The medications didn't really do too much. They caused my skin to actually kind of get worse. And I was at that place where I was like, okay, I've been told by doctors I'm going to have skin disease forever. There's nothing I can do. And I was kind of low at that point and was in a place where I was just kind of messing around on the internet, kind of looking at different things. And I stumbled onto Ayurveda, and that kind of sent me down the rabbit hole of holistic healing, kind of counterculture, healing advice, natural hygiene, veganism, yoga, detoxification. And I really took it upon myself to become a guinea pig and experiment. And for the next 7-8 years, I did everything under the sun, including long water fast, panchakarma, meditation, juice cleanses, everything. And I got some progress and learned a lot. And then at a certain point, I really got serious with everything. And I said, I'm either going to spend the rest of my life experimenting and trying, or I'm going to die trying. And so I made up my mind that this was it. And I really got serious at that point. I mean, the consistency went from kind of playing with different things and trying things out to literally dedicating my life to my own self-healing. And in about a year, I was able to cure my skin disease, and that was pretty much like 8 years ago. So around age 32, I really got healthy and have been able to be eczema free and skin disease free for 8 years.
Yeah, that's awesome. Your story is very, very similar to mine. I had severe eczema as a kid, and I needed gloves on my hands, at night, so I wouldn't scratch myself to death. And in college, like just severe acne all over my face. And it's like, why is this happening to me? And I went through every prescription drug and medication out there, Accutane. I've probably been given over 20 steroid creams in my life. probably spent close to $100,000 in my lifetime just doing the dumb things that doctors and dermatologists will tell you. And then last year, I went through debilitating eczema where I couldn't move. And I was like, it was so painful for me to move, and I was bleeding all over my bed and flakes of dry skin just all over my bed. And I'm like, why is this happen to me? I'm young. I thought I was healthy. And I went this journey very similar to you, where I studied the science behind healthy skin, behind acne, behind eczema. And I'm like, wow, there's things that doctors and dermatologists won't tell you, like, ever. And what I realized was food is the ultimate medicine, and it really stems from your gut. And what I learned is that 80% of your immune system lies in the gut. So you have to take care of the gut. Otherwise, your immune system starts overreacting when you eat inflammatory foods, or when you have a leaky gut and you have food particles that enter your bloodstream that causes inflammation and causes your immune system to freak out and starts overreacting. And then you can see that with acne, eczema, psoriasis, and you can also see that with mental fatigue and joint and muscle pain. So everything is related to what we eat and what we put in our bodies and actually on our skin as well.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail right on the head. I think that where most people are misinformed, and I think that's partially due to just the pathology and the medical system, how they what they learn and what they actually believe. But I also think that there are a lot of people that unfortunately understand that to heal yourself, you do have to get really disciplined with your food. And that's daunting, for a lot of people. But, I'm going to be putting out a video later today, another What I Ate Today video. And in this video, I'm really harping on two kind of main aspects. One is you have to customize the diet for yourself. You got to figure out the foods that are going to work for you. It's going to be different for every person. And you got to take the time, and it takes a lot of time to figure that out. But once you figure that out, then you're going to be taking a huge step forward. Number two, for those people who get the chance to heal, now it's the game of staying healed and keeping the refinement and progress going year after year. And really the only way that that can actually take place is if the food that you've made for yourself on a day in and day in basis tastes good. So you got to learn to, one, be disciplined enough to figure out what to eat, but two, also take that next step and make it taste good so that you can stay on your healing path for as long as you can, for as long as you need to. And I think that's kind of a big point to hit on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I was talking to someone who had severe eczema, and I'm like, hey, I healed from that too, and I would like to help you. And she's like, what medical degree do you have? And I'm like, well, you got me. I don't have a medical degree, but you've probably seen multiple doctors and dermatologists with MDs or PhDs, and they still haven't helped you. And I can help you with nutrition and heal you from the inside. But she kind of like blew me off. And it was kind of sad because I looked on her Instagram and she was eating dairy, gluten. She had a lot of coffee, so caffeine, a lot of sugars. I saw like desserts. So I was like, you could totally cut those inflammatory foods out and see so much clearer, healthier skin. But, she just didn't want my help.
Yeah, I mean, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't really force him to drink. In my opinion, my whole practice is based on the fact that I'm not a doctor. I don't want to be a doctor. I don't believe in what they teach as far as healing. And I'm not trying to get on a soapbox and say, like, don't trust your doctor, don't trust the medical system. Hey, if I break my arm, if my heart blows up, I'm going to go to the doctor and they're going to do a damn good job. But in terms of healing the body, we already know from traditional societies, from our grandmothers, from our great grandmothers, that when you eat healthy, your body is going to respond. And for me, I've worked with over 900 private clients focusing on nutrition, cleansing, detox, overcoming skin disease. And in the early times of working with people, you know, people would say, well, you know, what are your degrees in? And I said, well, I'm a behavioral scientist by trade. I have close to a master's degree in clinical psychology. I'm a certified yoga therapist. I could roll off a bunch more BS, but none of it relates to healing eczema. I said, my degree is, and I was covered in eczema and I've been cured for 8 years. That's my degree. And to be honest, if someone is in a place where they're going to question credentials and follow the advice of doctors, they're not someone I want to work with anyway. That's a closed-minded person who's already hook, lined, and sinkered into the rabbit hole of BS. And I don't really reflect that. And so what's cool for me now is everyone already knows that about me. They don't come to me going, oh, are you a nutritionist? Are you a doctor? And I'm like, you know, I don't have to even say no. They know ahead of time. So I think that, you know, I'm not trying to hate on people. I think that you want to work with people and get advice from people who have gotten the results that you have gotten. And here's one thing I always tell people: go to your doctor and ask them for a direct list of how many people they've cured from the skin disease you have. And they'll tell you 0, because they've never cured anybody and they don't ever cure anybody. So that's my overcome for that one when people try to pull that.
Yeah. I've seen, you know, probably 30 doctors in my lifetime. Not once was I asked about my diet. And it was crazy because they're focused on is prescribing me more and more topicals and creams and antibiotics. And it's like, food is the ultimate medicine. So I follow a lot of functional medicine doctors now. There's a ton out there on YouTube who are great. And yeah, I don't really I don't really care for the conventional medicine. So the problem with Western medicine is they're kind of focused on the scientific method and isolating one part of the body to see if it can be fixed. But really with the body, you have to look at the holistic picture. I respect a lot of naturopaths who also share share what I believe, which is food is the ultimate medicine, starting from or healing from the inside, and using using the vitamins and nutrients that you put in to help kind of reduce the inflammation in the body that's been causing all these medical problems. For us, it was skin. So that's what I believe in.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. And I think even, you know, with naturopaths, I think the limitation that they have is that they are more open-minded in terms of the tools that they use to heal. They'll use food, they'll use herbs, they'll use lifestyle modifications and interventions. But again, like you said, it's reductive science when it comes right down to it. And to me, reductive science doesn't even give us good lab results, because okay, so you're going to study protein synthesis of a rat or a mouse or mice, and you're going to relate that to the alchemy that happens between the human brain and the human gut brain. It doesn't correlate in any way, shape, or form. And so most of the lab studies and most of the research that you see out there right now, I can pick apart. People tell me all the time, well, this is what, you know, Dr. Greger just posted this, and this doctor just posted this, and here's research and peer-reviewed articles. Well, there's two things that you can do to really kind of pull the blindfold off of yourself: is go to those studies and pick apart how they were administered. Most of the time, they're an absolute total joke. They have no control factors that make any sense. A lot of them have half the people doing placebos and getting the same results. Also, who paid for the studies? You know, if a vegan protein company pays for a study done to show the effectiveness of vegan protein, then that study means nothing because it's biased. Vice versa, if, you know, Weston Price Foundation pays for a study to show how awesome animal-based proteins are for dental health, well, to me, that doesn't really hold a lot of water. I like more of genealogical studies of humans throughout hundreds of years spans, 200-year spans, and their effect on human physiology and kinesiology through their natural diets and their natural lifestyles. I think we can pull a lot more from those holistic studies than lab rat you know, just the old school type of research that you see people throwing around so much.
Yeah. Yeah. When you mentioned that you had strep throat in your younger days, I was talking to someone who also got strep throat and then got psoriasis because of it, and she had to take Humira, which is the best-selling drug, to heal her psoriasis. And then I looked into the science behind Humira, and what it does is it actually blocks the inflammatory cytokine, which is a protein called
Mm-hmm.
TNF, a tumor necrosis factor. And that's how it slowly starts to reduce the inflammation in the body. And that's how she was able to heal her psoriasis. Well, what happens is when you get strep throat, your body actually releases these inflammatory chemicals in order to fight off the bacteria and the viruses. In this case, the strep bacteria. And so that's a natural process that the body goes through. But what happens is sometimes you have something called a cytokine storm. So your body doesn't know when to turn off these inflammatory chemicals. And that's when you can see, psoriasis in the skin when you had strep throat. But there's a bunch of food that can actually help reduce the TNF levels in the same way that Humira, the drug, acts. And one of them being turmeric. There's also EPA and DHA in fish oil. And so there's a long list of foods that actually does the same thing as these prescription drugs that I found out. And that's kind of the message that I'm trying to share, is that, again, food is the ultimate medicine and can help you with not, skin and just your overall health.
100%. You can take a drug that will block a signal or inhibit your body to do something it shouldn't be doing, or you can eat the proper nutrients that will heal the issue at its root level and stay cured. I have the most crazy stories I hear when new clients are coming to me and I'm doing my intake with them. The people who come off Humira and Dupixent, they are ravished. Those drugs that they claim to be totally non-side effect, don't destroy your body. When your body is being messed with in the way of cutting off signals and disassociating the symptom from the inflammation, you've circumnavigated the actual thing that your body's trying to do to heal. So, and this is what a lot of people, including a lot of dermatologists, don't understand, is that eczema, dermatitis, psoriasis, and rosacea is a autonomic nervous system response disorder. It means that your nervous system and your immune system is constantly attacking itself and fighting with itself in a totally imbalanced and non-educated way. It's a deformity. And you have to look at inflammation in what it's used for. Like you said, your body sends inflammation to places that need healing. Blood cells, white blood cells, all the nutrients that it takes to have a healthy recovery. For instance, you get your shoulder smashed and what happens? You get a bruise. Well, part of what that bruise is, it's not just scar tissue, it's all the blood, all that swelling, all that inflammation is the body doing what it needs to do to heal. If you were to block that signal, your shoulder would never heal. So if you're blocking the signal to the inflammatoriness of your skin's not ever truly going to heal anyway. You're just slapping a Band-Aid and cutting off the symptoms. And when you actually heal, when you actually have a gut biome that changes enough to stop that inflammatory response from being dysfunctional, that's when you see the skin acting normal.
Yeah. When I hear about stories of people taking steroid creams for like months to years, and their skin is so screwed up. One, they could get red skin syndrome, which is even when coming off these steroid creams, your skin has just become so dependent on this immunosuppressant that the skin just starts to get bright red and start to flake off. And that's a huge side effect. But two, like none of these doctors have to be telling the patients you can only take steroid creams for a maximum of 2 weeks. You should not be taking it for months. And it's crazy that some of these patients are just not educated, whether that's the doctor's fault or the patient's fault, I don't know. But I think both of us are trying to get the message across that you should not be using these drugs that suppresses the natural response of the body, which is to create inflammation. Why? Because there's something in your diet or lifestyle that is causing inflammation, and you shouldn't suppress it artificially with drugs.
Right, right. I think something that paints the picture that we're both saying is when people come to me and we start the healing journey. When I started my healing journey, the skin didn't respond right away. It got a lot worse in the first few months because the inflammatory response just went into overdrive because it was trying its best to start the healing process. And what a lot of people do on their journey is during the first 3 months, when their skin isn't showing the signs of healing, then they try something else, get off the protocols, they freak out. And a big part of my message is you're going to have to go through a little bit to get to where you want to be. And that's totally okay. Things can get worse before they get better, but they will get better if you stay consistent. Also, I think that, is it the doctor's fault? Is it the patient's fault? A little bit of both. I try to promote as loudly as I can, take responsibility for your own health. If you're going to see a doctor, ask them questions. Don't just take everything they say at word value. Question them. And then at the end of the day, think about it yourself and make up your own mind. And if you decide to go with their advice or some other advice, then you take responsibility for your actions and don't sit back and at the end of the day, blame doctors or blame a YouTuber who you tried to copy their diet and it didn't work after 2 weeks. This is the hero's journey. It's the warrior's path. It's not for everyone, but for those who are willing to really put some work into it, there is light at the end of the tunnel for sure. And this is a big point. A lot of people say, well, how long does it take to heal, Rob? You usually say like 6 months to a year, sometimes a year and a half. I don't have that much time. I don't want to go through all that. You don't have that much time. In a year and a half, you're still going to be messed up and jacked up anyway. Plus, in a year, you're going to have to learn the lifestyle that will heal you. And guess what? When your skin's healthy, you still have to do those same things. You still have to eat clean. You still have to live a healthy life in order to keep your skin that way. So you might as well get used to the discipline and make that discipline a habit and make it easy, because you're going to have to do it for the rest of your life anyway. So whether you've been cured for after 6 months or a year or even 2 years, it really doesn't matter. Looking back, if I would have been like, oh, I've been doing this for 10 months and I'm not healed yet, so now I'm going to give up. Well, then I just would have missed out on the 8.5 years that I've been cured and the rest of my life that I will be cured. So I try to open people's eyes to the fact that it's not going to be easy. You do have to take responsibility for it. It will take a lot of hard work. It will be up and down, but it's worth it. It's really worth it. And there is light at the end of the tunnel. You don't have to have a lifetime of waking up with flakes on your pillow and itching yourself to sleep and bleeding on stuff and not going on dates and being socially awkward or having no confidence. You can have healthy skin. You can feel good about your skin, and you can get to a place where you just don't have to worry about it. All you got to do is stay consistent.
Yeah. That's such a great point. Health is the foundation for everything. And I wish growing up, I had a skin coach who would just tell me what, foods to avoid, how to change up your lifestyle in order to get clear skin for the rest of your life.
Right.
I spent so many years and so much time and money suffering and in pain and embarrassed about my skin, sometimes depressed and at times suicidal. Like, that's the pain that I went through, and I don't want anyone else to go through that same pain. So that's why I'm trying to help people. And I think I think we're both trying to help people understand that you should invest in your health starting today, so that for the rest of your life, you can stay healthy.
Yeah, 100%. It's obvious that that's what motivates you. For me, I started a YouTube channel not because I thought I'd be a eczema coach or a YouTube influencer. I started throwing up videos because, man, I had some success. And maybe if I put up a couple of videos, one or two people or 10 people or 30 people might see this video and be like, oh man, there's light at the end of the tunnel. I could do that too. And so as people who've been there, you know, and we've gone through the pain and the suffering, it's truly what motivates me is I want to see the narrative of the eczema community change, because it still sucks. You know, you go onto Facebook and you go into chat rooms and you see the typical stuff that's being talked about, and it sounds, and this might sound slightly judgmental, but it sounds like a bunch of sick, whiny people whining and being sick to each other. And then a person like me will come in and be like, dude, it's your diet. And they will attack you.
Oh yeah.
Bullshit. It's not your diet. That doesn't work. You're trying to sell. Okay. Well, a bunch of sick people promoting how they can stay sick to a bunch of other sick people. You know, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And I want the narrative to change. I want people to be like, okay, you know, I have been trying dietary stuff and been consistent for 5 months and it's not working yet, but damn, I'm in great shape now. And damn, I'm sleeping good and my skin will eventually catch up. So as a group, I think we need to police ourselves a little bit better. And when you see those people who still have bad skin disease promoting a product saying, oh, this will work, or promoting Dupixent or Humira, to kind of stand up and really it's our duty to speak the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. I've publicly stated that I want to eradicate eczema in my lifetime through proper coaching and education. So like, that's my kind of my life's goal. And it's a big goal. I know that, but I think we're both, you know, providing the content out there necessary for people to kind of start clicking in their minds that maybe topicals aren't the right way to go about it. Maybe it's food related. So
yeah, I totally agree. And I think that it's a shift that's starting to happen. You are starting to see, you know, when I first started this 8 years ago, there wasn't another person on YouTube doing what I do.
yeah.
Couple years later, there was a few people. 5 years later, there was starting to be a few. And then in the last couple of years, I've seen quite a few people coming up that are really trying to promote and have had great results and great success. And it's really nice to see other people out there expressing the same thing. Hey, I turned to food, I turned to fitness, I turned to meditation, I turned to all of these natural things, and I healed myself from the inside out. And I think that it's really, really cool to see.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious, when you first got your big flare up, were you eating, you know, foods like sugar or dairy or gluten?
You kind of broke up there in the middle of your question. What did you ask?
So when you first got your big eczema flare up, at that time, were you eating you know, typical inflammatory foods like gluten or sugar or dairy in your diet?
Yeah. When I was when I went from just weird skin things as a kid that weren't that systemic to having full blown systemic skin disease, I was very unhealthy. I was eating a lot of fast food. I was partying. I was drinking, experimenting with recreational drugs. I had no discipline. I had no fitness. I had no really trajectory in a positive manner. You know, I was still me. I was a good person. I had good friendships. I wanted to be on a path, but I was just young and stupid and having too much fun. And I was doing all the things that you shouldn't be doing. I was eating tons of dairy. I was eating tons of fast food. And I was really burning it from both ends of the stick.
Yeah. When I got my big eczema flare up, it was due to initially from sausage pizza. So I found out I'm sensitive to red meat, so beef, dairy, and gluten. So the trifecta, and that was in the pizza. And then what was actually making me worse was caffeine in tea. So I was drinking 3 to 5 glasses of tea every day, thinking it was anti-inflammatory. But actually, I'm a slow metabolizer of caffeine. And so for slow metabolizers, they actually are very sensitive to caffeine. And it upsets the digestive system, which can be reflected in the skin. So yeah, like those combinations were actually making me worse and worse and worse, and I just had no idea. But
Yeah, yeah, I feel you. For me, just to give you an insight into kind of where things got at a certain point for me, and how food and your lifestyle can really take you from being like I would say very mild skin disease to full on systemic. And I woke up every morning and it was a Starbucks double Americano to start my day. You know what I mean? Then usually like on the way to work, riding my bike, I would roll a blunt and I'd smoke it. And then when I got to work, it would be, let's make a jug of coffee for the client that I worked for and drink some of that coffee. And so it was like coffee all morning, in weed. And then it was like, oh man, like now I'm super hungry. And what do I feel like? Okay, Arby's is on the way home. McDonald's is on the way home. And it was, it happened really fast. When my lifestyle was that unhealthy, the skin disease went into full on hyperdrive and went from, like I said, a little here and there and here into just everywhere on my entire body. And it was debilitating. And that's also, you know, things got to hit rock bottom for certain people. I'm one of those people. And once it hit rock bottom, that's when I had my wake up call.
yeah, and stress is a big factor too, because it creates chronic inflammation in the body if you don't manage your stress. So I really like that you take the yoga aspect and the breathing techniques in order to kind of manage that stress and help you relieve the inflammation.
Yeah, 100%. I think that for me, the missing factor, and something I'm really trying to promote a lot more of these days is when people watch my videos and they've watched my channel for a bit, they know about the food. You know, they know that you got to customize your food. Everyone's slightly different, but food is number one. A very, very close second, is, are you doing something to address your autonomic nervous system response, your fight or flight response every single day? And if you're not, you're leaving gains on the table. You can drastically affect your inflammatory response by doing things like breath work, stress management, cold exposure, even as simple a thing as taking your shoes off and walking in the grass, getting those negative ions pulling at your feet and getting some actual clean air. People don't put enough emphasis during their healing process on the super basic stuff. And when you combine diet and that effect on the gut biome, plus directly going after the autonomic nervous system response, that's when I see people heal so much faster and with so much more ease.
Yeah. Yeah. What I like to do is do a jog around the neighborhood. And luckily, my neighborhood has a lot of plants and trees. So I do really deep breaths while I'm jogging. And then I also take off my shirt to get vitamin D from the sun, which is also very important. It's a very powerful antioxidant that reduces inflammation. So,
Right, right. And without that vitamin D from the sun, a lot of the hormonal responses in the body don't occur. You know, when you're having the cholesterol response in your body, if you don't get vitamin D from the sun, you know, your body's hormonal regulators don't actually work all that well.
yeah,
And that's why you see a lot of people in the winters getting so depressed and not able to hold on to muscle and kind of having health issues. You know, besides the obvious, they're indoors all day, but getting out into sun, in a healthy way, depending on your skin tone and your ethnicity, you gotta be careful, but you have to get out there and you have to get fresh air and sunlight regularly.
yeah. 10 minutes isn't going to hurt anyone. When you slather on sunscreen, you're actually not getting the vital UVB rays that helps integrate with the cholesterol in your skin to synthesize vitamin D. And you know, 10 minutes
Mhm.
of sunlight is actually very healthy for you. Um, I just made a video on vitamins and vitamin deficiencies, and
Mhm.
what they found out was over 90% of young teens and adults do not get enough vitamin D every day. So that's why a lot of people get sick, especially like you said in the winter time. So I recommend either going outside for 10 minutes, which is super easy and super efficient, or taking a vitamin D supplement every day?
Yeah, I would definitely push people towards um, both of those things, especially going outside and also the other contributing nutrients that allow your body to create the hormones in the first place. You know, you gotta have the right macro ratios with your diet, and there's a lot of different ways you can do it. But you got to be cognizant of your nutrients for sure.
Yeah. Oh, do you have like a weightlifting goal right now?
You know, for me, as far as lifting goes, I kind of had a goal during my first year when I transitioned from plant-based to kind of the hybrid diet that I do now. I wanted to see what it could do. So I was doing a lot of, I wouldn't say bodybuilding, but a lot of just trying to elicit hypertrophy in my body, trying to gain muscle and stay lean. I was able to put on at the end of that bulk, if you will, 35 pounds, and my body fat percentage didn't change at all.
Yeah.
So at one point I got up to 190, and that was like 6 months ago. And over the past 6 months, my goal has been different. I kind of met all my goals, and I blew out of the water what I thought my results would be. I would have been happy with putting on 10 pounds of lean muscle in a year. I've been working out since I was 12 years old. So to put on 35 pounds of muscle in a little over a year was pretty astounding. And at this point, 6 months later, I cover around 180, 177 pounds. Body fat is still goes between 9% when it's super low to about 12% when I'm a little thicker. Right now, it's probably like in the 10% range. So 180 pounds, 10%. And my goal right now is just to move and enjoy my movement sessions. So I do not really have a really strong set programming for weightlifting, but I can tell you that I lift weights a lot. I do probably some type of resistance training 5 to 6 times a week. And on top of that, I move my body in lots of different ways. I've been kind of obsessed with converting vans to campers and getting old retro trailers and rebuilding them. And it's super physical. So I'll do, you know, a nice weightlifting session in the morning, go for a long walk sometime during the day. I'm a obsessive hiker. I love mountain climbing and hiking. But my new fitness has been spending 10 hours on top of my normal day building vans. And that's just been a really fun way to do something different, to get more movement into my life. And I'm a what I call a generalist. I don't really believe in picking one thing and just sticking with that one thing forever. I like to get kind of decent at a lot of different things so I can speak a lot of physical languages. If you were to look at like my resistance training, I'm doing everything from barbells to gymnastics rings to kettlebells to body weight stuff. My bread and butter though, my favorite exercise, and this is something that I'll always do, is pull-ups. I think pull-ups are the most underrated upper body movement there is. When I was, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, at the point where I can only do like 4 or 5 pull-ups, my back looked a certain way. And I can, without warming up, jump up on any pull-up bar, gymnastics rings, and bust out 20 pull-ups with ease. And my back is big. My back is probably the best body part I have in terms of hypertrophy. So I love pull-ups and I love overhead press, and I love to do anything for my legs that involves not doing squats. I love squats, but they are hell and they're not fun for me. So I like to run sprints, dance, do the old silly speed skater shuffle is what I call it, when you're just jumping back and forth, plyometrics, whatever I can do to keep it interesting. And if I get to a place where my workouts, I'm dreading them and they're boring, I'm going to do something else, but I'm going to do something all the time. So my goal right now is to stay interested and stay in that place where fitness is fun. I like to involve other people as much as possible. Right now, that's really hard because of what's going on. But generally, my workouts will consist of meeting up with a bunch of friends in a park, hanging gymnastics rings, everyone bring a certain tool and just kind of get after it.
Yeah, yeah, that does sound fun. Fortunately, my gym is closed. Is your gym closed? Yeah. So
my gym is closed. Yep.
yeah. So I do a jog around the neighborhood, and there's actually a tree branch right outside my door, front door, and I'll do like 5 sets of 10 pull-ups, and that's been my workout. And yeah, this is the only thing I can do right now.
Yeah, well, you're doing something, and I think that's key. Is no matter, and also I think people will hear my message and they'll misconstrue it. Oh, Rob spends hours a day in the gym. No, I don't. I really don't. I do micro workouts. Sometimes I like to spend an hour and a half in a gym, but that's not very usual. I like to be a little bit more natural, and I am an extremely ADD person. So I'll smash 20 minutes in the morning, do work for a couple hours, spend 10 minutes doing pull-ups midday, then go back to work, then finish my day off with a long walk and a 20-minute strength building session, and then work on a van for 8 hours. And when you calculate that all together and see what that equates to in a week, it's a lot of physical activity. And I think it makes it a lot easier when you don't put the stress on yourself of, okay, at this time, I have to go to the gym for this many minutes, and then that's it for the entire day. If that's all you can do, great. But you don't have to be a slave to the 30-minute or hour and a half long workout in the gym. You can break it up. And I suggest that people, instead of looking at fitness as I do this for 30 minutes and then that's it, is how many different ways throughout a single day can I move my body in different ways and make my heart rate go up and lift something that's heavy and do something. You'd be surprised at how much I've gotten gains in my lower forearms and my arms from holding a nail gun and working on the van. It's like, first month I did that, I could barely hold that thing up. And by 6 months into building vans, it was just like left hand, right hand, and it didn't notice. It wasn't a workout, but I got gains, I got results. And as long as you keep it fun and mix it up, I think that anyone can have a high level of fitness.
Yeah, yeah. People who don't like working out think it's a chore, but for us who like working out, it's like the endorphin release feels amazing, and two, when you notice
Yeah,
the abs coming out or your arms getting bigger, it's like, oh, now I'm doing this for the rest of my life. I can't stop working out, and yeah,
100%.
yeah, I'm in the best shape of my life. I now have an 8-pack, which I've never had before, and that's a combination of the diet and working out. So I will continue doing that, and I'm trying to get to like 185, 190ish. I think that's my goal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, just keep inching away at it, and I know how to keep consistent. And for most people, it's like they're like, well, I only gained 5 pounds of muscle in a year. Okay, well, 10 years from now, that'll be 50 pounds. And I can't tell you how many thin people that I've worked with for 5 years who 5 years ago, they looked like a typical person who's just thin. And now, because they were thin and have that natural body type, and they took the time and they got those half a pound gains every 2 months, well, 10 years later, 5 years later, rather, 50 pounds of pure lean muscle is a completely different looking human being.
oh yeah, yeah, and you just look so much better, and you fit in your clothes more, and then you're just attractive to the other sex more, and so there's so much benefits from just taking care of your body through food, through working out, through lifestyle. So
For sure. For sure.
yeah, this was awesome, Rob. Where can the viewers and listeners find you?
Yeah, so the easiest way to find me and where I put most of my content is on the YouTube channel. You can either go to youtube.com/C/my name, which is ROBSTUART, or just Google or do a search for Rob Stewart Eczema. I have over 850 videos. So that's the number one place. HolisticHealthActivation.com is my website. That's where you can find my offerings, my ebook, my coaching. I give free consultations to anyone who wants to chat and see if they have what it takes or want to take the journey to healing their skin. On the Instagram, I go by Stuart Rob Stewart, and I put up weekly content there as well. And any of those places link back to each other anyway. So those are all good spots to to connect with me, interact with me. And I love for people to ask questions. If you notice on my YouTube channel, if there's a legitimate comment that's asking a question, I do my best to respond. I respond a little less now because of just the amount amount of comments and trolling and BS that I have to deal with. But if you got a legitimate comment, if you have a legitimate desire to get help, reach out, and I'm here to help people.
Awesome. If you're watching this, go follow Rob. He's a great he's a great skin coach and helping people with eczema and psoriasis, just like me. And we're both trying to help the world get clear skin. So thank you, Rob, again. And until next time, Taco is out.